experiences of my childhood. We were basically maybe, I would say it's a working class family.
Okay.
My dad worked while my mother brought up us kids. And then when we were in high school, my mom got a job as a licensed practical nurse. We seem to always be struggling financially. I'm not sure, again, because when you live in a rural town, there are no factories or no high-paying jobs, basically. And my dad had his own little business.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so from that point on, I ended up going to a state university called Northern Illinois University.
Mm-hmm.
And
what did you learn there?
Oh, well, my mother was focused on helping me be successful in life, and she didn't want me to ever suffer financially.
Okay.
Right? So she pretty much insisted. I probably could have rebelled like my sisters did, but instead I followed my mother's dictates to become an accountant. Okay, so
Okay.
I went through my degrees in accounting, and I had passions for other things though as a child, and as I got into college, it's like, should I have listened to my mother? Because it was like, even though I'm good at math, I didn't particularly like doing accounting work, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But that was where the jobs were actually at that time. It was in early 1970s, and so I graduated. I got a job offer from a large certified public accounting firm.
Nice.
And they encouraged me to take the CPA exam, which I did, and I passed. And so that was kind of the start of my financial career, at least. And after that, I kind of graduated through the ranks. I went to work for private companies and real estate groups who built housing. And that ultimately got me to where I am today in some obscure way. It was good. I think in some cases, though, I think back when I was a younger person, I loved drawing, and I would draw automobiles, and I would draw buildings that I thought should be created, skyscrapers. So I wanted to be an architect, apparently.
Okay.
And I never really followed that passion. I didn't have a purpose back then other than to be financially secure.
Mm-hmm.
And so that financial career lasted, I would say, until I was probably around 40 years old.
Okay. So today we are right here in Las Vegas, attending a legal symposium related to Indian tribes. How did you come and become an executive director of this organization?
That's an interesting question, because I often think back about my own journey in life and how maybe things could have been different at any time if I had a purpose. And so beginning in around 1990, I made a decision, because I was a chief financial officer, and so I was under a lot of pressure.
Okay.
It was a $1 billion, $3 billion firm that managed real estate, housing assets, and things like that. And so as the CFO, I was the top financial officer. I had a whole department of staff, right? Under a lot of pressure. I kept seeing the doctor about stomach pains and ulcers and stress. And I tell people I used to be like my friend Sandeep, 6'5" with black hair. And now, maybe I'm a little bit shorter and my hair is grayed, but it was because of that very stressful period of my life. And so one day I washed my hands of that and went into nonprofit work. To tell your audience that they probably are well aware that when you shift from a for-profit corporate life to nonprofit work, there's a small decrease in pay.
Yes, just a small, just not much. Okay.
Not much, but enough to have an impact on your life, right?
Yeah.
And so I was very fortunate, though, because similarly to the for-profit arena, right, I was able to move up, right? I started as kind of a lower level person and ultimately became an executive director for a membership association, right? And So I didn't know what a membership association was, other than that I had belonged to one once, right? And so, as it turns out, it was very small, and I then decided, okay, well, I can do two of these possibly, small membership associations that were statewide or regional, right? And so the one that I interviewed with in 1998, before you were born, I think, was the Northwest Indian Housing Association. It was difficult to comprehend why they would choose a Caucasian person to work in tribal housing, but what the interview was, after they asked me what tribe I was enrolled in, I'm not a member of a tribe, and what's your background in like Native American housing? I don't have any background in Native American housing. I thought the interview was going bad, but what happened was is they asked the question that was most important to them: what is your association management experience? Because we are not, I mean, we definitely, serve tribes and everything, but what we really do is we have a membership association, so we want to have meeting planning, we want to have membership newsletters, we want to collect dues, and we want to grow our membership association. And that led me into the world of tribal housing.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And so, when was that?
Let's see, so that was in 1998.
Wow, you have been doing it for such a long time.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, as of the date of this recording, it's well over 25 years.
Nice, very nice, very impressive. And so, which are the tribes that you have associated with?
Well, it started off with 38 tribes in the Northwest, and that included Oregon, Idaho, Washington, and one tribe in Alaska. And so we would have quarterly meetings. I was running that group. At the time, they didn't have a youth scholarship program. We wanted to bring younger people into tribal housing programs and professional positions there. And then we also didn't have any what they call vendor members or associate members, who often are very willing and wanting to be associated with tribal housing as like a contractor or someone that could provide housing materials or software, things like that. So we really worked hard to build that up. Come to find out that they were called Region 6 of a large national association that I had never heard of, called the National American Indian Housing Council. So one day after we were working together for about a year, they said, Joe, you need to start going to these national conferences where you'll meet other regional people. You'll actually learn a lot about tribal housing. And at the time, I was an association manager, not a tribal housing professional. So I had a lot of catching up to do as a result. So that's really how I was introduced to this national group. And that was probably in the latter part of 1998.
So you being a Caucasian and still being the executive director of such a big organization related to housing speaks volumes about many qualities, good qualities in you.
Well, thank you.
And I sincerely appreciate, but I want to tell the audience that one more thing that I appreciate about Mr. Joe is that he has a beautiful and wonderful sense of humor.
And I try during interviews not to show that very much. I try to be as serious as possible, but life is an adventure, and I think that part of why I have humor as a signature strength of my own is my father. He used to play pranks on us and play games with us all the time. Wow. He always had a joke every day for us, and it was always a good joke. Nice. It wasn't like a terrible joke or anything, but he always laughed and had a good time in life. And I picked up on that, and maybe it's genetic, I don't know, but it was something that I found that with my own father, who had been in World War II and had been wounded in battle, that was a way that he dealt with stress, right? And the way that he didn't think back about those traumas that he suffered when he was fighting a war in Europe, right? And so I began, while I was going through some stress in my own life, to use humor as a way to kind of break that stressful thing. And it's a positive thing in most cases.
Oh, absolutely. It always brings out the good qualities in others as well. Everybody relaxes whenever there is a tense situation,
Right.
and then they can open up.
That's right.
So I definitely appreciate the quality, and you were funny on stage as well.
Oh, thank you very much.
So before we get into this legal symposium, I also want our listeners to know about your family, your wife and children. So please tell us about that, where you met.
Sure. Well, my daughter was a product of a first marriage that I had, and I
Okay.
got married very young. And so, again, my daughter is now 52 years old. We saw her last weekend, actually.
Nice. Okay.
One of her husband's daughters from a previous marriage was getting married, and so we enjoyed the wedding. It was one of the best weddings we had, and again, it was
Wow.
positive. It was something that, again, when you see a passage, a person going through a passage in their life, you see a total change in their, demeanor and their attitude. And this young woman was so happy to be getting married, and all the family was there. It was a beautiful scene. And so I have a wonderful daughter. My current wife, we've been married now for 28 years, going on 29.
Beautiful.
We're actually best friends, and she's a very kind person. She's very supportive of me taking on jobs like this where I have to travel a lot. She reminded me that I was in 12 cities over the last month at 12 different
Wow.
airports. And
Wow.
so I think she was trying to tell me something. But the message was received, so I'm going to be home for a couple weeks now.
Okay, very good. Yeah, yeah. She definitely deserves your company.
Well, thank you.
And I remember you telling earlier that after 2 years she started or she stopped laughing at your jokes.
She did, yeah. And that was because, again, my style of humor was to repeat jokes over and over again. And at some point, it's like, that's not funny anymore.
And you're not funny
It's
anymore.
funny for others, maybe, but
Yeah.
okay, try some new jokes. So I've been practicing on that.
Okay, cool.
And so, but one of the things that, and one of the things I wanted to tell you, I really appreciate you asking me to be on your show here.
Of course.
Because one of the things that I really try to promote in life is to inspire and empower others. And how do I do that? Just by interacting with them and getting to know them. They say, Joe, you're so funny and relaxed. And as an introvert, as I was growing up, I never had that quality, but it was because of my father, my upbringing, going through a stressful period in my own life that I decided to adopt a positive attitude. So I would want to tell your listeners that it's never too late to change, and it's never too late to look at life in a different way.
Very true. Very nice. Thank you so much. Also, now that you are in this executive director position, what exactly have you done for the benefit of the tribal members? Now, this is, of course, a national legal symposium we are talking about.
Correct.
But so you have a phenomenal outreach with so many tribes coming from all over the place. So tell us what, first of all, the organization had done in the past and how you have carried it forward in your tenure.
Oh, well, thank you. I would go back to 1974. I was very young then. I was just 3 years out of college. But somewhere in Washington, D.C., a new national association was formed, right? And so that was 49 years ago, called the National American Indian Housing Council. And I wasn't aware of it until 25 years later when I started attending their meetings. And one of the things I think I found about the experience, and your readers can research this, is that tribes are actually sovereign governments. They're contained within a federal government, but they have treaties which govern their relationship to the federal government. So it's a government-to-government relationship that these tribes have. There's so many controls and restitution that the federal government has paid for taking the land away from these indigenous people that it's become very, very complex. And oftentimes, tribal members were relegated to very rural areas, which ties to my background. I'm familiar with rural areas, right? And so I think in the big picture, in the big scheme of things, I go back to the fact that a membership association is created to serve the members, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
created to serve itself. We do have revenue sources, of course, and we provide services to not only members but others who would want services. But we typically are there only to serve our members, right? And so it's a very fulfilling role, number one. Number two, my role as my background in the one region that's a part of NAIHC is to hold conferences, to hold meetings, to bring speakers together like yourself, and to have the opportunity to share that with our membership as a membership benefit. And so I think my contribution, if you will, to this group and even to the regional group was that I was able to bring people together, to network together, to expose them to some of the things that they should be learning about the government-to-government experience with the federal government, and new housing techniques and new technologies in housing in terms of building. It's just, it can go on and on. Even some of our members are involved with software. They're involved with broadband, providing broadband to their members. They're managing infrastructure and other projects that serve their tribe. And so it's been, my contribution has been, in my eyes, fairly minor because I am just the organizer. I bring the people together. On the other hand, people have told me today, even, Joe, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And so I get a
That's
lot.
very nice.
Oh yeah, it's very
And
nice.
I would like to go even further and vouch for the fact that I have personally found the symposium really good, very professionally done. Everything was done, and I know it takes a big team, and you do not have a big team. You have only a few people, and they did a phenomenal job. You had help from others, but the entire symposium was done very, very professionally.
thank
It
you.
was very successful, and I personally thank you for this success. Um, is it okay if I ask and let our listeners know how did you manage the finances and make it successful?
That's a great question. And I think if you go back in history, you'll find that there have been hundreds of thousands, probably millions of nonprofits that have been started by people in good faith, right? They wanted to make changes in the world, and the change was going to start with them. And so they create these groups. And in our case, we said, well, we have a population we're serving. There's a total of 570 plus tribes in the US. Not all of them have housing programs, but someone had the foresight before I even knew them that let's create a membership association, collect dues from them so that we can return the favor, provide education and training, provide information to them on government, federal government housing programs that they're eligible for, and let's try to grow the membership association to where the membership dues can be kept to a minimum. So we did a couple of things. One, we entered into contracts with the federal government to provide what they call training and technical assistance. And so the acronym is T and TA, training and technical assistance. And so we get several million every year from the federal government to provide this training at no charge to our members. And so that's a clear membership benefit. And so to finance that effort, we have to cover, as you mentioned, the small payroll of those of us working here. And so what we do is the federal government allows you to take a certain percentage of every grant and apply it to what it would cost to have an office, have like an administrative staff and internet and everything that you would need to run an office. And so we typically try to return as much money as we can to the tribes that are our members. The membership is really the owners of our group. But what we try to do is to maximize profitability, which then gets expended as benefits back. So we're typically break even. We have maybe 6 months of reserves in the bank should something untoward
Nice.
happen.
Okay.
Yeah, like a pandemic might happen one of these days.
Yeah.
So you never know. But we're able to survive through circumstances like that, basically because of good fiscal management. I can't take credit for all of that, but I can take credit for the fact that as a CPA, and also I did attend and graduate and pass the bar. So I'm an attorney at law as well. Those kind of combinations are good for helping an organization get back to reality.
Hmm.
I'm also the bearer of bad news sometimes. It's like, I don't think this is going to be a good idea for us to do. And here's why. Greatest ideas in the world are out there by the dreamers, right? The people that have vision of, where should we be, 20 years from now? But you also have to have that fiscal control and fiscal management to make it all work. So that's, I think, my contribution too, a little bit, not to brag or anything, but a lot of times it's what they call, it's a dirty job. You have to tell the truth to people that, I don't think this is a good program for us. It may wipe us out as an organization. And like I said, probably millions of nonprofit organizations have not made it. Right?
Very true. Very true. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think there's always a number given to, okay, so out of the 100 nonprofits, maybe 80% fail.
At least.
Because, right?
Right.
Yeah, and or maybe more. And out of the remaining 20, there is an 80-20 split even within that who are really successful. And what you have done here with the symposium is phenomenal. So I definitely thank you for a wonderful job.
Oh, well, thank you for being here and being one of our participants and speakers in this group as well. So we really appreciate your leadership too. And no one has asked me what tribe you're from, but I said, well, he's an Indian.
Yeah. Very true. And thank you for that. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you can always reach us at 901-849-DEEP, or you can write to us as sgp97@hotmail.com.
Well, thank you
And
very
we would
much.
love to have you again on our show.
I would love
Thank
to
you so
come
much,
back.
and loads of success to you in the future.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Sandeep.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.